Hello and welcome to Sportuccino. I'm Richard Parr. Now, I know on various different days we've covered all different types of things to do with sports, health, fitness, travel. We've covered a little bit of everything, but what we're going to try and do now on a Tuesday is cover everything related to fitness in particular. We're going to get some of the greatest professionals from the fitness industry to give their amazing top tips and tell their stories on the program. Coming up in a few minutes, I'll be speaking to Commando Steve. He's going to give us an amazing story and amazing insights coming up on today's Sportuccino. If you've got any questions for him, please send them in the comment section on this Facebook page and on the YouTube page. And of course, we are live at sportuccino.com. Also on the program, I'm going to be reviewing the Boost Ball. Yes, the product review is back. Most likely I will be choking on air once again. Nothing to do with Boost Ball, but because it's not clever to eat and speak at the same time. So that will be coming up on the program as well. But before we get to all of that, I want to tell you about Virtual Staff Finder. Virtual Staff Finder is a product. It's a company that we personally use here at Sportuccino to help build our team. And they can help supply you with virtual assistants, WordPress developers, SEO specialists, or even graphic designers. Go and check them out, Virtual Staff Finder. I put a link to them on this Facebook video and on our YouTube page. And if you click through the link and you do end up using their service, you will be helping support Sportuccino. So I'd really appreciate it if you try it out. That is Virtual Staff Finder. Go and give it a go. Let me know what you think. If you have any kind of feedback for it, I'd love to hear from you. All right, so we are here live on Facebook and on YouTube, and thank you very much if you're also listening back to this as a podcast on iTunes and on Stitcher. Really good to get you listening to the show, and I am delighted to say now we're going to get some amazing knowledge from Commando Steve, live from Australia. Steve, so great to have you on the program. You're such a busy man, so I'm really glad you've been able to fit us into your schedule. First of all, how are you doing today?
No, yeah, not too bad. Thanks, Richard. It's great to join here on Sportuccino and hopefully sharing some of my knowledge. I get a little nervous when people give me an intro and the whole insight side of things, and it's all right, I'm ready to go.
Well, we're ready to hear from you, Steve, and I think with your background, we know that you know what you're talking about. So whatever you have to say, I'm sure we're listening very carefully. And let's talk about that. You were in the Australian Armed Forces. You are a commando. Tell us a little bit about that journey first.
I joined the army when I was 18 years of age, and the unit that I was posted into went through a role change around 1996, 97 to a full-time commando unit. And I think I was too young and immature to know otherwise, so I put my hand up and gave it a go and went through the selection process, and I managed to scrape my way through there, and then the rest is history to a degree. I spent the better part of a decade, serving in the Australian Special Forces and doing a whole host of different things. And the job that I did for the last few years before leaving was to help raise a second counter-terrorism capability here in Australia on the East Coast after September the 11th. So that was quite an intense part of my training, of my life, and I think it really, as with all my military training in young years, set me up with a foundation and framework which has helped me in a civilian life as such moving forward.
Yeah, how was that transition into civilian life, Steve?
The transition was probably the most daunting thing that I've done to date. I really asked a lot of questions of myself, and a lot of it just comes back to perspective. It's how you view the world, and it's your understanding. And having been immersed for the majority of my younger years, my late teens through my 20s, those kind of early adult years in the military, you think civilian world, everyone's got a degree, everyone's qualified through the eyeballs in what it means to be a civvy and live a life as a civilian. So I felt quite inept and unsure of myself. But in that transition out of the army, something that I'd always enjoyed was my own training. And, I kind of held that quite near and dear to myself. So all the training that we did in the army that was required from us, as a foundation, I still did my own training. And that's what I used in transitioning out of the army into a civilian life. I thought, I enjoyed training. Why not train some other people and make a job of it?
And a very successful job of it you've made. Now, you have Commando Fit. For people who don't know exactly what is that, could you explain it to us, please, Steve?
So, Get Commando Fit is my online program, which is a foundation and framework that incorporates the nutritional side of things. I guess the psychological component. Addressing our thoughts and our actions and our intentions and the reasons why we do things. And the other component is the training. It's the nitty gritty. It's getting in there and doing the hard work. And essentially, we package that all together. We provide that in an online environment or setting. And anyone that's willing to kind of put their hand up and put their best foot forward and give it a crack, it's available. We run a mission each and every month. So there's 12 missions a year, and there's missions that are constantly overlapping. And it's great. It's a component of what it is that I do, and we did it because I can't be all over Australia training everyone at any one time. And actually, I've had a few people that message me that have done it from countries. Other countries overseas and from England as well. And I actually just ran a camp in Tahiti where I had a lady come to the camp from England. So it was quite a humbling experience.
Yeah, amazing. So what are some of the typical things which go on at that camp, Steve?
Well, that camp was I guess twofold. It was about having some fun and just chilling out. But incorporating some training. So I ran some training sessions in the morning and in the afternoon. The intention was to make those sessions as inclusive as possible. So it didn't matter your fitness level. It was more about just having a go, having some fun, and trying some things that are new. And even for us here in Australia, we've just come out of a summer, and it's starting to get a little cooler now. Tahiti was just that environmental factor of humidity and heat was another level, and that's something that you just got to deal with, and you need to be mindful of all that type of stuff because a lot of people. I'm kind of getting off track here, but I reiterate these types of things with people. The small things matter, and that environmental factor and that change is going to have an effect on your ability to train, and it's. We learned that in the army, and I've learned that competing as an athlete within CrossFit. You need to acclimatise and kind of get yourself conditioned to the new environment. Otherwise, you're going to crash and burn.
You mentioned CrossFit there. It's becoming a huge global phenomenon. I haven't tried it yet myself, but I've always found people who've done it become very passionate about it. When did you first come across it, Steve?
I was introduced to CrossFit in 2003, 2004 as I was transitioning out of the army. A mate just said, have you tried any of these sessions online? And I was, no. And I thought, I've been in the army, we've been in the army for 10 years, doing some of the toughest stuff in the world. Why would I need to try some new kind of training regime? And I think that was the ego getting the better of me. And about a month later, my mate said to me, have you done one of those sessions yet? And I was like, no. So we knocked out a session in my front yard, and it took about 20 minutes. And I think for the next hour, 45 minutes, we were in the fetal position on the ground going, what the hell just happened to us? And having the curious nature that I have, I wanted to understand more about it, immerse myself in it, and I went to America and did some courses over there in 2007. I opened my own CrossFit gym in 2008 here in Australia, and in 2009 I competed in the CrossFit Games in America, and I did pretty well in that. And that definitely, in a physical sense, that exertion was one of, if not the toughest thing that I've done to date.
Oh wow, and you've done some pretty tough things throughout your career, Steve. It's quite
Oh,
funny you mentioned about the CrossFit Games. I on my other podcast, The Best in the World with Richard Parr, I was speaking to an Olympic sailing champion from the 2008 Games,
yeah,
Anna Tunnicliffe, who's now a very fierce CrossFit competitor. I think she finished in the top 20 a couple of years ago, maybe 14th or something like that.
yeah.
And when you said about the fetal position, one of the questions I asked her is, how often does she puke? And she said, I puke every single day I do CrossFit.
Oh, yeah. I used to feel that, get that sensation yeah, of wanting to throw up when I first started CrossFit. And what is it, 2017 now? So I've been doing it for 12 years, 13 years, and I didn't get into it until I was 28 or 29 years of age. And it takes a while to really solidify a foundation in CrossFit. I guess coming into it in a slightly older, but the younger generations now that are taking up CrossFit, like my daughter, she's been doing CrossFit since she was 6 years of age. She's 9 now, and she's a weapon. And as is one of my sons. But yeah, it takes a little to wrap your head around it and kind of understand it, because I think a lot of people come at it with, it's all about the intensity, and intensity is important in anything that we do. That application of commitment, but it's relative both physically and mentally, and you need to understand where you are in your journey. And for a lot of people who are getting into it, you kind of allow yourself to be a beginner. Don't lose sight of being a beginner, because it'll creep up and bite you otherwise.
You mentioned your daughter there. I saw a great video of you both testing the Today Show presenters, putting them through their paces,
Yeah.
and she's pretty fierce. Could you see her following your footsteps, Steve?
Yeah, she's definitely a female version of myself. She loves it. She loves bossing people around, and she just loves all things activity. Whether it's swimming, dancing, gymnastics, CrossFit. She tries her hand at everything.
Oh, amazing. All right, we're going to get some more great knowledge from Steve in just a few moments, but I want to tell you that you can help support our show, Sportuccino, by buying some of our merchandise. We've got mugs, we've got some active wear, so when you're following Steve's instructions on his web videos, wherever you are in the world, you could be wearing some Sportuccino merchandise as well. Have a quick look at this. Now, along with your online program, everyone's using kind of apps these days. Steve, is there any particular app you'd recommend for anyone who's trying to improve their fitness?
I tend to use more just interval training type apps for myself. I'm a pretty simple kind of guy, and I try not to get too attached to different things. And I find I could actually show you on my phone I use. Can you see my phone? So in here, I just use a standard where are we?
Just about
Interval
make it
type
out.
timer.
Yep.
Yeah. and you can put a whole host of, and it's a free interval timer. You can put a whole host of different interval protocols into it. So wherever you go, and for me, I'm traveling all the time in hotel rooms and kind of in new environments. So it's great that I can just whip out my phone, get on there, kind of have an interval protocol already programmed in my phone, and kind of roll out of bed and start doing burpees to a Tabata. But no, I'm joking. But other types of apps. There's a lot of great apps that you can use that like Map My Run and things like that really help you to kind of get an understanding of each week, how far you run, and people who like to see the data, and it kind of helps with their motivation and working towards achieving a goal. I say go for it. There's great nutrition type apps that you can use if you're into counting your calories, or wanting to understand your macronutrient intake of, say, your protein, your carbs, and your fats. And there's other gadgets as well that link to apps. I'm an ambassador for Garmin, and they've got some great products. Just getting a little plug in there with their metrics as well, and they've even got watches that are GPS based, but they also have the heart rate built into the back of the watch. There's slight inaccuracies, but for the better part, they really help with data collection. You see a lot of athletes utilizing those tools nowadays.
Yeah, I think I've got one of those Garmin watches. I'm not wearing it right now. I think it's charging. I think it's called the Vivo HR or something like that. It's really useful.
Yeah.
Mainly because it normally, when I'm sat down, it says move, and it actually makes me get up and go get some water or a coffee or something like that. So Steve, you mentioned goal setting there, and the last couple months I've been a little bit slacker in the gym. Work has taken over a little bit with Sportuccino and trying to put out as much good content as possible. But I've been back in the gym, and I've now set myself a goal of doing a warrior run. They do three different lengths: a 7K, a 14K, and a 21K. And I can only really do 5K on the treadmill, so I'm going for 7K, 50 different obstacles, like a military course, or what we'd call back in the day the Krypton Factor Show here in the UK. What would be your top tips for someone like me who's 2 weeks out, trying to go to the gym, I'd say 4 to 5 times a week, trying to do some HIIT classes? Do you have any top tips, maybe something to do with nutrition or rest or anything like that?
Gosh, and you're 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
Like having a sound level of cardiovascular conditioning is important. So knowing in yourself that you're going to be able to cover the 7 kilometers, and interwoven into that is going to be those obstacles, and a lot of those obstacles are going to require a fair amount of coordination, balance, accuracy, and agility. So in the gym, utilizing exercises that encourage the promotion of those neural skills, and doing it under fatigue. So very much like how CrossFit would prescribe a session, you might do a run on a treadmill, say 400-meter run, and then do some exercises under the fatigue of that 400-meter run that challenge you to complete them, and that are high capacity or output as well. You could use some dumbbells and do a ground to overhead type action after a run on the treadmill. You could throw in some burpees there. You could do some box jumps, a combination of lunges. Lunges are great for working that balance and that stability. Really, it just comes down to being quite kind of open-minded and incorporating. It's more about the glue, or the adhesive in bringing those parts together, because you do an obstacle course like this, you run up to an obstacle. It's not like you want to stand there for 2 minutes to get your breath before you commit to an obstacle. You want to throw yourself at it and get through it, and that's the challenge. And I think one of the primary reasons people do it is it gets them outside of their comfort zone. So you need to get yourself outside your comfort zone in the gym. So psychologically, it boosts your confidence, and your self-belief.
Balance and coordination are not words you'd normally associate with Richard Parr, so this is going to be very interesting, Steve. What about food? Would you say carbo load the night before? Would you say be on quite a light stomach in the morning? What would you do if this was you?
Yeah. 7 kilometers isn't groundbreaking. Yes, it's going to challenge people more so their perception of doing something like this because of comfort zone and unknown and the fear and the like. But there isn't a need to carbo load or such. Just 2 weeks out, you should have your diet squared away by now. Your fresh, green leafy vegetables, your fruits and your salads, protein if you're not vegan or vegetarian in that sense, like the animal-based proteins, and your good fats. And on the morning of the race, someone like myself, I don't have an issue with having had a meal and then exercising or doing something like that. But for a lot of people, the nerves of something, doing something new, I probably recommend something light, maybe a piece or two of a fruit, and make sure you're hydrated. That you've definitely in the days leading up to the race that you've gotten plenty of water in, and even if you need to throughout the race, wear a camelback type device so that you can just sip along the way.
Ah, that's a good idea. What about for general diet for yourself? Do you take any supplements or any protein bars? What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, like I do, and I have over the time. I try to get the majority of my nutrients in through eating whole foods, as I guess as naturally found or in their natural state. So I eat a lot of vegetables, whether I'm eating them steamed or I've blended them up in the Vitamix and made up a smoothie. I might put some kale or some broccolini with some almond meal and just some water and some dates and a banana and things like that, and blend it all up. From time to time, I'll add like a protein powder, and I try to utilize protein powders that are more plant based. It just tends to sit better with me, whereas a lot of the whey or dairy products tend to upset my stomach. Other type of supplements, I've had them, over the years. Maybe a fish oil or a BCA, the amino acid type supplements. But really, I found that they're just like a lot of things in this day and age. They're just a marketing tool, and we don't really need them if your diet is sound and you're consistent with your diet. I think a lot of the time people let themselves down purely just because they're not consistent enough.
Very interesting. Now, we mentioned my goals. What's your current goal right now, Steve?
I'm doing a lot of work in the space of connection and vulnerability. I've come on board as an ambassador for an organisation here in Australia called Are You OK? And it just asks the question, it's promoting for any given person to ask the question of a friend or a colleague or a mate, are you okay? And it's all to do with mental health. And a lot of my personal journey in the personal sense, which flows into that professional side of things, is connection and understanding, and not just connection with another human being, but a connection with self and with nature, and identifying with those things so that you kind of understand, the path that you're walking. And when there is greater connection in self and with others, you're less likely to attach kind of unconsciously to things and feel compelled through those attachments to kind of prop you up in your identity and to confirm and validate who you are. And I challenge people to ask themselves, what are their attachments and who are they? And, are you the clothes that you wear or the car that you drive or the house that you own or the job that you have? And we're not those things. And, who are we then? And that means asking yourself the hard questions. And that's a path that, or a rabbit hole that I've kind of gone down and doing a lot of work around. And, that even for myself is in the gym and asking questions of myself when I'm training. And a lot of it comes back to, again, the psychology or the thoughts behind things and the emotional states. And for me, it's about being kind and compassionate and kind and compassionate to self first and foremost, which can be very challenging.
Yes, empathy is really important. Steve, it's been really good to get your thoughts. I think that's a really important cause that you're doing, and I think that's really good that you're giving back that way. Steve, we've run out of time on today's program. It's been so good to talk to you. Just before we go, why don't you let our viewers and listeners know, if they don't know already, how they can find you on social media, and also mention anything else you'd like to speak about before you go.
Yeah, so if anyone has any questions or you would like to get in contact, essentially all my handles. So my website is commandosteve.com, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat. They're all Commando Steve, and they can jump on there, follow and send me a message or shout out and say good day. And I think what I was just talking about at the end there. If we can promote more of that, people connecting with themselves and kind of just taking a step back and breathing and kind of identifying with who they are, we're going to change our perception and our understanding of the world in which we live in. And finally, if anyone's interested in the program, that's getcommandofit.com. .au. I'm not sure how it works for you guys. I think if you put in the you may still need to put in the .au.
All right, well, I'll make sure we put the right links to all of that on the Facebook page, YouTube, and at sportuccino.com, so everyone knows where to find all of that information. Steve, it's been really good to talk to you. Thank you for being on the program, Commando Steve.
No worries. Thanks, Richard.
Really good to speak to Steve on the program today. I think we can all admit that we really learned a lot. All right, we have come towards the end of the show, but before we go, I need to do the product review. I have promoted it, so it is that time for the Sportuccino product review. So in the last few days, I have been trying out Boost Ball. A Boost Ball coconut fudge cake is the flavour I'm going to be trying in just a moment. But I tried a few other flavours over the last few days. As I've been training for that warrior run, I was speaking to Steve about why don't you have a little look at my journey that I've been doing on the Snapchat page for Sportuccino. It's got all the information of how I felt about Boost Ball the last few days. After a pretty good workout this morning, I'm now going to try these Boost Balls. Less ingredients, more protein, peanut butter cookie dough. Apparently they're high in protein, 32% protein. They've got 7 natural ingredients, including cashews, peanut butter, date syrup, dates. Let's see if it tastes any good. So we get 3 of these balls in a pack, and apparently each one, which is 14 grams, has 4.4 grams of protein. Let's see if it's any good. They taste okay. I wouldn't say they're the most exciting thing in the world.
Let's see if it gives me a bit more energy now. Well, over the next few days I'll try out the other flavours and let you know how they go.
In the end of a sunny day where there's been the Brighton Marathon, and as you can see I really caught the sun, and I also got to play a bit of football. I'm pretty hungry now, so I'm going to try out the raw chocolate brownie version of the Boost Ball, another flavour I've yet to try.
Better than yesterday. It's not bad actually, and it's good that it's gluten free and it tastes alright. Let's see if it'll give me the protein that's needed.
Sportuccino is going to start shortly, but I'm getting a little bit peckish after a weight session in the gym, so I'm going to try out the next flavour of the Boost Ball. It's maple and cinnamon roll. I'll tell you if it's any good. It smells very cinnamony, and it looks a little bit different to the others. Let's see if it tastes any good. It's not bad actually. I think it's the best of the lot. At first it just tastes like a really sweet dough ball, but it's actually quite good and I quite like it. So that's it for today's Sportuccino. I've been Richard Barr. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We really learnt a lot from Commando Steve. He was really fantastic to speak to. Really appreciated his time on the program today. That's what we're going to try and do every single Tuesday, is get an amazing guest, an expert from the fitness, health and nutrition world, to let you know what you need to do to get that little bit better every single day. On Wednesdays, we talk about WWE, TNA, and everything to do with the wacky world of professional wrestling. One of my big passions. We'll be live from 3 p.m. BST. That's 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. I can't wait to talk to you. We will be live. Have a wonderful day.